Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into our presentation today. We are Group 6, the South Africa group, and today we'll be going over the Absolut Vodka campaign called Africa is Absolute. We'll be discussing how Absolut Vodka had to stray away from westernized ideology in order to tune in to a target audience in Africa by using a South African artist to help make music videos and music that would highlight African culture and African background to tie Absolut Vodka more into that realm of the world as opposed to just solely Western culture. So we'll be highlighting the history of South Africa because that plays a big role in everything Absolut Vodka is able to do or not able to do, and also how people perceive the campaign. We'll also be going in depth about the campaign itself and how Absolut Vodka had to stray away from some of their own ideology. So, thank you for watching.
In 2015, Absolut Vodka launched the Africa is Absolute campaign in South Africa to promote African unity and Africans transforming the world. Using their platform as a sponsor for the MTV Africa Music Awards, Absolut Vodka partnered up with a local artist, Khuli Chana, and made him the face of the campaign. They released a TV commercial and a documentary showcasing Chana's personal journey. And as a part of the campaign, fans were encouraged to follow on social media, participate in contests, and attend Mama events throughout South Africa. The partnership with Chana eventually led to a musical collaboration with him and several other African artists to make a One Source concept album. And this expanded on the message that all creation comes from one source, which is Africa. The campaign aimed to ultimately change the world's perception of Africa by showcasing the country's unique identity and their creative excellence. Absolut's mission statement is, "We stay true to our purpose," which connects our values, our culture, and our people to aim for greatness. Their vision statement is, "Our goal is to be a role model both in industry and beyond. Ultimately, we want our people to not only enjoy our products, but also be proud of how they have come to life." Their values statement is conviviality, entrepreneurship, mutual trust, and a strong sense of ethics. These are the foundations upon which we build our values. For us, creativity is a treasured asset, and it rests in the hearts of the people that we work with. So Absolut's mission, vision, and values statements emphasize who they are, where they're going, and what the brand actually values. And together, these are the foundations for the company's overall culture. The Absolut company is based in Stockholm, Sweden. It was founded in 1917 by the Swedish entrepreneur and distiller Lars Olsson Smith. So Smith had an idea to craft an extra clear premium vodka that was free of impurities. And he accomplished this by introducing the continuous distillation method. And this method, it distilled the vodka over 100 times as opposed to what was traditionally being done, which was distilling vodka maybe 4 or 5 times. And he did this without compromising the overall taste and quality. Needless to say, Absolut Vodka started to become very popular, and it eventually became the foundation for the Swedish government's alcohol monopoly, Vin and Sprit. In 1979, Absolut expanded internationally, first becoming available in the United States and in most European, Asian, and Pacific countries by the mid-'80s. In 2008, the Swedish government sold Vin and Sprit, and Absolut was acquired by the French spirits company Pernod Ricard. Absolut prides itself on its one source production. Every aspect of production comes from one source, which is the small village of Åhus, Sweden. From there, Absolut produces and sells 99% of all Absolut vodka abroad. Currently, Absolut Vodka is ranked as the #1 premium vodka in the world, and its largest market is the United States. South Africa's history is a tumultuous one, characterized by European colonizations dating back to the early 17th century, power struggles, racial antagonism, and finally, a remarkable political transformation. In 1652, the Dutch colonized the country until the British seized the Cape of Good Hope area, which forced many of the Dutch settlers to move up north and found their own republics. When gold and diamonds were discovered in the late 19th century, South Africa experienced substantial growth in wealth and immigration. European farmers unsuccessfully resisted the British rule, and the subjugation of native black inhabitants started to worsen. Finally, in 1961, South Africa declared its independence from Britain. However, South Africa was still under a political system of racial segregation and discrimination known as apartheid until it transitioned to democratic rule in 1994. In their first ever democratic election, the political activist Nelson Mandela was elected as the first democratic president. The transition to democratic rule propelled South Africa's economy toward a capitalist-oriented, free market, and free enterprise system. South Africa is rich in natural resources such as gold, diamonds, and the top three key sectors that contribute the most to the country's economy are finance, trade, and manufacturing industries. The country's GDP is expected to be about 390 billion US dollars by the end of this quarter. South Africa's media culture is characterized by freedom of speech and free media. According to the World Press Freedom Index, South Africa is ranked 28 out of 100 countries on the spectrum of press freedom. Under South African law, human rights, freedom of association, and freedom of speech are protected. In terms of media, the broadcasting industry is regulated by an independent government body known as the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa. As a high context culture, trust is extremely important to South Africans. It was important in this campaign for Absolut Vodka to be perceived as a reputable company, and using a South African agency to head this campaign and a local artist such as Chana as the face was a great choice because their proximity and their awareness of the culture gave them a unique insight to make it a success. South Africa is an individualist and masculine culture, scoring 65 and 63 on the spectrum, respectively. So competition and success are highly valued. The Africa is Absolute campaign highlighted those values by emphasizing the message to be bold, authentic, ambitious, and be proudly African. South Africa was ranked 71 out of 180 countries with a score of 43 on the Corruption Perceptions Index. This suggests that the country is perceived to have a serious corruption problem. The goal of the Africa is Absolute and One Source campaign was to improve the world's overall perception of South Africa and showcase its rich culture and creativity.
My name is Brianne Barbakoff, and I'm going to tell you about the overview of the Absolute campaign. Be Absolute is the tagline and is showcased in one way or another on all of VML's marketing materials and is used to acknowledge Africa's creative revolution and told Cooley's story of originality. Absolut Vodka, as stated before, is from One Source in Sweden, which relates to Africans also being from one area. One Source became a war cry of the African creative revolution currently underway and a celebration of African unity. Together with Cooley, we created a documentary series, an EP, and a music video for the title track, chronicling his story from South Africa to Ghana, from collaborator to collaborator, lighting the fire of African creativity wherever he went, was stated on Native VML's website about the reasoning behind their campaign. Native VML and Absolute partnered with Cooley Chana for 3 years on this campaign, but it remained such a success that they continue to partner with him on all their future campaigns that still promote Absolute. The strengths of the company are that their universal brand equity, a single source of production, unique bottle brand marketing, and strong promotional techniques and campaigns. The weaknesses of Absolute is that export costs around the world are very high, And Absolut is an extremely competitive vodka market because if people could buy vodka for cheaper prices, what makes Absolut special to make them want to be buying that instead of something else? The opportunities that they had in this particular campaign were online marketing and sales techniques, the growing trend of alcohol related behaviors, especially for parties and for young kids, which they are trying to market, kids who are 21 and growing, and the expansion of the brand in lesser known markets, example, Africa. Threats: a failed marketing campaign in Africa with little to no interest in markets that they are attempting to capture, and rising taxes and fuel to locations around the world could cause potential issues on this campaign becoming a failure. The goals of this campaign, though, were to expand to a limited market and grow a stronger customer base in South Africa. The goal, like any other campaign, is to boost overall sales as well. The objectives are to acknowledge and showcase several African artists through music and lyrics, also to increase the sales of Absolut in different locations within Africa rather than just South Africa. Strategies and tactics are used to effectively combine owned, earned, and bought media to promote this campaign. Absolut did this through sponsoring the MTV Africa Music Awards and the creation of a concept album containing 8 original tracks. Kuli Chana also gave a live performance at the MTV nomination event. They also released a limited edition One Source pack with free music downloads. Billboards, along with going on social media engagements with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, were used to advertise and promote the different promotions going on throughout the campaign. Overall, the campaign was successful and reached number 1 on iTunes and was shared by some of the continent's most influential artists. And all of this happened for free, which was a big plus for this particular campaign because it wasn't high cost and they got a great return value that has continued to resonate with the residents of South Africa, continuing to increase sales of Absolut vodka.
Hi, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about the implementation of the campaign. So basically the campaign used every aspect that it needed to really raise awareness and actually move the needle. So they used social media, they used Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Actually, one of the music videos, the music video that they made with Kuli Chana, I believe that's how you say it, his music video ended up being number 1 on iTunes. It went viral. It went throughout the nation. They also did weekly episodes. These were a little bit different. They were more focused on transforming the city of Johannesburg and making it more sustainable. And basically the webisodes would show the reactions to the campaign of other people who had already seen it, and people would view it who hadn't been a part of the campaign or didn't know what it was about, and it was meant to transform people's opinions and thoughts about the city of Johannesburg and to help it. They also had several web pages. One of the web pages was made by a media company, Total Exposure. They included media galleries, press releases, and media advisories of the campaign when it was going on. They had specific photo galleries for the campaign launch party of One Source. They also had photo galleries for One Source Live, which is the actual music festival that the campaign did. Okay, now we're just going to move on. Also, I just want to talk a little bit about the promotional events too that the campaign had done. One of the promotional events was One Source Live that I just talked to you about. It's a music festival, and basically they got Kuli Chana and a couple of other celebrities to play, and now it's like a concert every single year that people talk about, and they are then back. The celebrities and musical artists have endorsed Absolut, and they are the face of the campaign basically. So that's a little bit about the implementation. You can see I posted some of the pictures of, their Twitter page and social media. Also, just to point out really quick, the picture Absolut ZA with the 5 bottles, that is a contest they actually did through one of their platforms on Facebook. It was basically a contest with a art company that you could design your own Absolut bottle, and then the winner would actually get their design like on a bottle. So that was really cool and involving. They tend to involve their fans a lot and let them create things and do things in the campaign, which was awesome. And then this next slide, I just have pictures from the webpage that they participated in One Source Live, the festival, in the photo gallery, just some of the pictures of the celebrities like enjoying the launch party. And then I just want to show you guys, there's a YouTube video on here that will play. It's basically just the music video that Cooley Chana, released that talked about One Source and really like revolutionizing South Africa and bringing the country together, that they're all from One Source from South Africa, and really harnessing that they are rising above the apartheid, and that it's over. The country is still recovering. I'll talk about that in a second. When I talk about environmental influences in the written portion, really focused on apartheid and how it impacted the country. Although it was over in like 1994, I want to say, the country is still recovering. When I was researching, they do have censorship still, unfortunately, with the government. It's not so much that journalists are scared to publish things, it's more so that it's a bureaucratic process to get public information. Process tends to be very slow, and so a lot of reporters have said how it's kind of like counterproductive trying to get information to get stories, which of course the media impacts public relations, what we're allowed to do, putting stories out or press releases and interacting with the media. However, there were no sort of censorship with Absolute and the One Source campaign or the concert, which I found interesting because One Source and the concert and Cooley Chana's music really is about revolutionizing and like rising above and like them having the power, which you would think, their government may be a little hesitant to allow them to do something like that, but they had no issue with them doing that. And finally, I'm just going to talk about my overall evaluation, how we all thought, what we thought of the campaign overall. And my analysis was that it proved to be overall very successful. It really seemed to move the needle in what Absolute was trying to do, which was trying to get people to recognize and like that Absolute was made in a small town in Sweden. It was from One Source, which most vodkas aren't. And it basically mobilized the entire country and united them as One Source. So thank you.
My name is Adriana Topite. I will be talking about internal and external audiences. Because one of the objectives of the Absolute campaign was to bring Africans together and celebrate their ethnicity and heritage, the general audience for this campaign was Africa's entire population. Although the campaign was mainly focused and developed in South Africa, the campaign strived to target Pan-African audiences. The idea of creating this campaign that unites Africans through embracing its culture was a complete success because Absolute focused on creating a campaign that Africans could really relate to, rather than just seeing a more globalized message targeted to broader masses. Absolute was struggling having relevance in African countries, so they knew that it was important to create a campaign that could make this brand more appealing to the African market. To understand the primary audience that Absolute was trying to reach, it is important to note that the majority of African countries' drinking age is 18 years old, not including Algeria, where drinking is illegal, and countries such as Ethiopia and Zimbabwe, where the legal drinking age is 15 years old and 16 years old, respectively. Although Absolute wanted to make all Africans feel part of this campaign by promoting their culture, the primary audience for this campaign were young adults from 15 to 40 years old. Because Absolute's brand is only vodka, the public for this campaign has to be one that enjoyed drinking spirits and supporting local and younger artists. When looking at alcohol consumption statistics from South Africa, our World in Data's website shows graphs that help understand South Africa's drinking culture. According to the article Alcohol Consumption by Hannah Ritchie and Max Rosberg, South Africa's alcohol consumption per capita in 2015 was 11.5 liters of pure alcohol. Share of adults who drank alcohol in 2010 was 40.6%. The share of male versus females who drank alcohol in 2010 was 56.3% being male and 26.3% were female. Spirits as a share of total consumption in 2010 was only 16.17%, as opposed to beer, which was 48.1% in that same year. Absolut Vodka knew that South Africa would be a challenging market because of the statistics showing that beer consumption in this country is 3 times more spirits consumption. I meant to say it was more the 3 times more of spirits consumption than it was of beer. In fact, beer is the top choice of alcoholic beverage in South Africa. South Africa is known for its excellent wine, with the top 10 ranking among best wine exporters in the world. The wine industry, beer industry, and even brandy industry are considered one of the stakeholders known as the Absolut Market Competition. Some other stakeholders include artists that wanted to collaborate in creating the new design of Absolut Vodka bottle. People in general that love to support local artists that have that sense of African touch through their songs and expressions as well. The secondary audience include people that do not drink alcoholic beverages necessarily, but that follow or are interested in taking part of the campaign in ways such as assisting the music festival, engagement through social media platform, and usage of hashtags such as BeAbsolute. Secondary audiences also include non-drinkers that were moved by this idea of embracing South African culture rather than just adjusting to markets that focus on promoting other cultures and ways of living that are far from those of South Africans. Because young adults are more prone to try different things or unfamiliar things as opposed to more mature adults that might be less lenient in wanting to try something aside from their usual drink, Absolut knew that the primary target audience would have to be young adults. To help achieve the goals of this campaign by increasing vodka sales in the country, Absolut wanted to promote young creative artists and movements that this target population would like to take part in. This was done through many creations such as One Source Live, which included a festival, a documentary series, a music video, and an EP. South Africa's response to this video was outstanding, with media impressions that reached up to 556,000. Because young adults present in social media is so influential, Facebook being the strongest media platform with 30% of the population connected to it, and almost 4 million Instagram users, Khuli Chana, South Africa's most vocal rapper that has collaborated enormously in Absolut's campaign, has more than 225,000 followers on Instagram. This has made it easier for Absolut to reach this younger adult audience through different platforms aside from the ones coming directly from the Absolut campaign.
All 5 aspects of the circuit of culture were present in Absolut Vodka's One Source campaign. For representation, the One Source campaign was represented primarily by Absolut Vodka, VML, and Khuli Chana. The campaign featured a song and music video starring the local South African artist, a documentary series, social media post, as well as a live music festival. For identity, the campaign was produced by Absolut Vodka and developed by VML. The goal of the campaign was to make Africans care more about one source, the message that all of Absolut Vodka's liquor comes from one source, a small town in Sweden. For production, the campaign was paid for and backed by Absolut Vodka. The PR agency, VML, developed the campaign, and they were a major key in the success of the campaign. Since VML is a South African-based agency, they brought key insights into how to best convey messages throughout the continent of Africa. For consumption, the campaign was seen worldwide and celebrated throughout Africa, even years after the campaign was carried out. And for regulation, the One Source campaign and tactics were illegal in South Africa. Nothing about them were viewed as obscene or subversive by the South African government, who still control certain aspects of the country's media. Khuli Chana and fellow collaborating South African artists accepted the proposal for the One Source song, music video, as well as live music festival. The analysis of the Absolut Vodka One Source campaign had reactions that were massively successful in South Africa and the continent as a whole. The campaign's message also resonated around the world to earn enormous amounts of earned and shared media. The campaign was carried out nearly perfect from start to finish. VML created engaging social media posts and featured an exciting song and music video. They also marketed Absolut Vodka extremely well throughout the process. The only recommendation I have for the campaign would be that VML increased the importance of the message beyond the borders of Africa by implementing more cross-cultural social media posts.
So, to sum up everything that you've seen and heard from us up to this point, it's been 3 years since Absolut Vodka launched their Africa is Absolute campaign. And not only has the campaign been successful, it's grown. What began as a partnership with Kulichana to tell his story of originality and creativity has grown to a festival for African creativity. The campaign has reached more than 11.5 million people, and there's been over 400,000 online engagements. The hashtag #BeAbsolute has been used more than 10,000 times. Absolut was able to tap into this concept because they were struggling to maintain relevance and create sales in Africa. For Absolut, the saying "one source" is representative of how every drop of their vodka originates from one town in Sweden. But the company was unsure how to make Africans care about a product and its origins that were so far away. Absolut, with the help of the PR agency VML, teamed up with Kulichana to change the mindset that one source just referred to a small town that made a lot of vodka. The phrase was reframed to represent how all Africans come from one source, Africa. According to VML, one source became a war cry of the African creative revolution currently underway and a celebration of African unity. In order to acknowledge the full success of this campaign, it has to be noted that Absolut had to change the perspective of what one source can mean. The original meaning worked well for westernized cultures, but it wasn't succeeding in Africa because it wasn't something that the people could relate to or quite frankly cared about. This taps into the psychology behind consumers. People like to feel connected to the things that they buy. And by keying in on a specific group or letting people know that the groups that they're affiliated with and identify with are more likely